History is usually written by the victors. They carve their triumphs into marble pillars and sing songs of their glory. But sometimes the losers leave a mark that lasts longer than any song. Look at this stone. Really look at it. Do you see the terror in the brow? Do you see the way the mouth is twisted, gasping for a breath that will never come? This is not a trick of the wind or the rain. This is a crime scene. We are told that the trickster warriors. We are told they solved their problems with lightning and iron. But there was one night when the strongest god of all, Thor, found himself in a battle he could not win with his hammer. He faced an enemy who did not bleed. He faced a creature who used the ancient laws as a weapon to steal the thing Thor loved most. This is not a story of war. This is a story of a father who had to become a liar to save his daughter. It is the story of a long, cold night, a deadly game of riddles, and the dawn that turned a groom into a grave. Sit with me. The fire is warm, but the tale is cold. Let us go back to the night the earth stood still. The air in the great hall of Asgard usually smells of roasted boar and sweet honey wine. But on this night, the air was sour. It smelled of stale beer and uncomfortable silence. The gods were trapped, not in chains, but in honor. Standing before them was Alvis. His name, in the old tongue, meant all-wise. He was a dwarf, a master shaper of the deep underground. He was not beautiful. His skin was the color of a maggot found under a wet log, and his beard was stiff with the dust of the mines. But he carried himself with the arrogance of a king. He had come to collect a debt. Years prior, the gods had needed weapons. They needed chains that could not break and spears that never missed. In their desperation, they had promised a reward to the smith who could forge such wonders. They promised the hand of Thrud, the daughter of Thor. Thrud was the jewel of Asgard. Her name meant strength. She was tall, fierce, and beloved. And now she was the currency of a foolish bargain. Alvis paced the floor, his iron-shod boots clicking rhythmically against the gold tiles. "The work is finished," Alvis rasped. His voice sounded like gravel grinding together. "The weapons are delivered. The contract is sealed. Where is my bride?" The gods looked at the floor. They looked at the ceiling. They looked anywhere but at Thrud, who stood by the high throne, her knuckles white as she gripped the hilt of her dagger. She was a warrior, but she was bound by the laws of her people. An oath given by the gods cannot be broken, or the fabric of the world unravels. Come, Alvis sneered, sensing their hesitation. "Do not tell me the Aesir are liars. Do not tell me that the lords of the sky have no honor. I demand what is mine. She comes to the dark with me, tonight." He reached out a hand scarred by fire and soot, toward the princess. At that moment, the pressure in the room changed. The hairs on the arms of the gods stood up. The smell of sour fear vanished, replaced instantly by the sharp metallic scent of ozone, the scent of the storm. Thor had returned from the east. He did not walk, he stomped, and the floorboards trembled with the memory of earthquakes. He was soaked to the bone, his red beard dripping with rainwater and the black blood of trolls. He carried Mjolnir, the crusher of mountains, loosely in his right hand. He saw the dwarf. He saw the outstretched hand. He saw the fear in his daughter's eyes. Thor stepped between them. He did not shout. The most dangerous storms are the ones that start with a low, vibrating hum. That was Thor's voice. "Who," Thor rumbled, "is this creature? And why is he trying to put his dirty hands on my kin?" Alvis did not cower. He was a creature of the earth, and rocks do not fear thunder. He looked up at the giant god and smiled a thin, jagged smile. "I am Alvis," the dwarf declared, "and I am the husband-to-be. The deal was struck, Thunder God. Ask your father, ask your kin. Thrud belongs to the underground now." Thor looked at the other gods. Odin gave a single, solemn nod. The deal was real. Thor's grip on his hammer tightened. The leather handle creaked. He could end this in a single swing. He could turn Alvis into a wet smear on the floor. But Thor knew the cost. If he killed a guest who held a valid contract, he would stain his honor forever. He would make the gods into oath-breakers. He had to stop the wedding. But he could not use his strength. Thor looked at Thrud. She looked back, her eyes hard and demanding. She did not want pity. She wanted a plan. Thor took a deep breath, exhaling a cloud of steam into the cold He unhooked the hammer and set it on the table. Thud. I am a father, Thor said, his voice surprisingly calm. And by the ancient rites, a father has the final say in who takes his daughter. I was not here when this deal was made, so I say, the deal is incomplete. Alvis narrowed his eyes. You cannot break the oath. I do not break it, Thor said, sitting down heavily on a bench. I test it. You claim to be all-wise. You claim to be worthy of a goddess. Very well. If you are truly wise, you will prove it. A test? Alvis scoffed. I know the secret names of the roots. I know the language of the worms. Ask me anything brutal. I will answer, and then I will take what is mine. Thor leaned forward. The firelight danced in his blue eyes. He looked like a wolf who had just found a scent. We shall see, Thor whispered. Sit. The contest began. It seemed simple. Thor asked Dwarf for knowledge. Alvis provided it. Tell me, Alvis, Thor began, of the earth that lies beneath us. What is it called in all the worlds? By the men who plow it and the giants who stomp upon it. Alvis straightened his tunic. He spoke with the rhythm of a scholar reciting a lesson. The men call it earth, Alvis said quickly, but the Aesir call it the field. The Vanir call it the ways. The giants call it the deep green. The elves call it the grower. And the high gods call it the clay. Thor nodded slowly. Correct. Is that all? Alvis asked, reaching for Thrud's hand again. Sit, Thor barked. We have only just begun. You want a goddess? You must earn her. Tell me of the sky. Men call it Skyishim, Alvis droned, bored by the simplicity. The gods call it the roof. The Vanir call it the windweaver. The giants call it the upworld. The elves call it the fair ceiling. Thor asked about the moon. Thor asked about the sun. Thor asked about the clouds. To the audience in the hall, it looked like a stalemate. Alvis knew everything. He never faltered. He never hesitated. His knowledge was vast, a library of ancient lore stored in a single ugly head. But Thrud was watching her father. She saw what the dwarf did not. Thor was not listening to the answers. He was watching the candles burn down. He was watching the shadows lengthen on the floor. He was not testing the dwarf's intelligence. He was testing his endurance. But Alvis was too proud to see the trap. He was intoxicated by the sound of his own voice. He was showing off, adding poetic flourishes to his answers, wasting breath, wasting time. The night deepened. The air in the hall grew cold, the kind of cold that seeps into the bones. The wolf's hour was approaching, that dark time before the dawn, when the spirit is weakest. Alvis was beginning to suffer. He had been speaking for hours without pause. His throat was like dry leather. His voice was becoming a rasp. Thor, meanwhile, had called for a servant. A massive horn of dark, frothy ale was placed in his hand. Thor lifted the horn. He did not drink immediately. He let the smell of the yeast and the honey waft across the table. He let the cold droplets of condensation run over his fingers. He saw Alvis's eyes dart to the drink. The dwarf licked his cracked lips. Tell me, all-wise, Thor said, taking a slow, long draught of the ale, swallowing loudly. Ah, that is good. Tell me of the wind. What is it called? Alvis swallowed dryly. Men call it wind, he croaked. The gods call it the vagabond. Thor drank again. He wiped the foam from his beard, looking refreshed and strong. Go on, what do the giants call it? The giants, Alvis wheezed, call it the wailing. And the calm? Thor pressed, leaning in, his face full of mock curiosity. What follows the wind? Tell me the names of the silence. Alvis was swaying slightly. The heat of the argument and the dryness of the air were taking their toll. But his pride held him upright. He could not let this barbarian giant stump him. He was the master of the mind. The calm, Alvis whispered. Men call it the hush. The gods call it the rest. The elves call it the daydream. Thor smiled. It was a terrifying smile. It was the smile of a hunter who sees the prey limp. Thrud, standing in the shadows, finally understood. She looked at the high windows. They were covered with heavy tapestries, blocking out the night. But she could feel it. The world outside was turning. The wheel of the stars was rotating. Her father was not fighting with a hammer, he was fighting with the cosmos itself. Suddenly, a shutter banged open against the stone wall. Alvis shrieked. He threw his hands up to cover his face, cowering under the table. "The sun! The sun!" he screamed. "You tricked me!" The gods laughed. It was a dark, rumbling laughter. Thor stood up and walked to the window. He peered out. "Peace, little worm," Thor rumbled. "It is not the sun. It is the false dawn. The moon is setting, and the gray light is just a reflection of the snow. You are safe, for now." Alvis crawled out from under the table. He was shaking. He was humiliated. He brushed the dust from his tunic, his face flushing with anger. "This game is over," Alvis shouted, his voice cracking. "I have answered your riddles. I have named the earth, the sky, the wind, and the sea. I have named the fire and the wood. There is nothing left to name. Give me the girl or face the wrath of the deep earth." Thor turned back from the window. He looked at the dwarf with a strange expression. It was almost pity. "You are right," Thor said softly. "You have named almost everything. You have shown us that you know the world better than any living being." Thor stepped closer, towering over the dwarf. "But there is one thing you have not named. One thing that ends all games." "Ask it," Alvis screamed. "Ask it, and let me leave." "Tell me of the night," Thor said. "The daughter of darkness. What is she called?" Alvis rattled off the names. Darkness, Mask, Unlight, Dreamgiver. "And what destroys the night?" Thor asked. His voice dropped to a whisper. "What is the thing that sits on the horizon, waiting to eat the stars? Tell me the names of the day." "The day," Alvis proclaimed, puffing out his chest one last time. "Men call it day. The gods call it the sun-glad. The giants call it..." He paused. His mind was foggy. "The giants call it the everglow," Alvis said. "And the elves call it the day star." "You are a genius," Thor said. "Truly, you know the name of the light." "I do," Alvis grinned. "Now I take my bride." "You know the name of the light," Thor said, his voice hard as granite. "But you forgot to watch for the light itself." Thor nodded to Thrud. Thrud threw her weight against the great oak doors. The hinges screamed. The doors flew open. It was not the false dawn this time. It was the strike of the sun. The first blinding ray of the morning sun shot through the doorway like a golden spear. It cut through the gloom of the hall and struck Alvis square in the chest. For a dwarf, the sun is not just heat. It is a curse. It is the ancient enemy. Alvis tried to raise his hand to shield his eyes, but his arm was heavy. It was no longer flesh. It was slate. He tried to scream, "No!" but his tongue was granite. His cry was cut short, frozen in his throat. The transformation was absolute. In the span of a single heartbeat, the all-wise suitor was gone. In his place stood a statue, a perfect, grotesque carving of a dwarf, caught in the moment of ultimate realization. He looked surprised, he looked terrified, but mostly he looked heavy. Thor walked over to the statue. He tapped the dwarf's stone nose with his finger. Tick, tick, the sound of stone on stone. Thor turned to his daughter. "I did not break my oath," he said quietly. "I promised him a bride if he could prove his wisdom. But a wise man knows when to stop talking, and a wise man knows when the sun is coming up." Thrud looked at the statue, then at her father. She placed a hand on his arm. She was safe. Alvis knew the name of every star in the skyway, but he did not notice the sky changing. He was so obsessed with being right, so obsessed with proving his intellect, that he forgot the simple reality of the world around him. He forgot that time does not stop for our arguments. Thor teaches us something dangerous here. He teaches us that strength is not always about how hard you can hit. Sometimes strength is about patience. Sometimes the best way to defeat an enemy is to let them defeat themselves. To let them talk and talk and talk until the light catches them. The statue of Alvis stood in Asgard for 1,000 years, a garden ornament for the one, a lesson for anyone who thought they could outsmart the thunder. Next time you find yourself in an argument, next time you feel the need to prove how smart you are, remember Alvis. Ask yourself, are you winning? Or are you just talking while the sun comes up? The archives are vast and the dead have many stories left to tell, But the sun is rising here too, and my time is short. To hear the next legend before it fades into the dark, subscribe to MythkiPedia. We will be waiting for you in the shadows.